"Sir, your son didn't get in that taxi," said the dirty girl in the middle of the rain. Richard Wilson slammed on the brakes when he saw the small figure standing in the middle of the street. The rain was punishing New York that Thursday night, and the 52-year-old businessman was desperately searching for his teenage son, who had left home after a terrible argument. That's when the girl appeared out of nowhere, drenched and with her little brown dress clinging to her tiny frame. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old, but her eyes carried a sadness that didn't match her age. "Sir, your son didn't get in that taxi," she said, approaching the car window. Richard felt his heart race. How did this child know about Tyler? How did she know about the taxi he had sent to pick up the 16-year-old from school? "How do you know about my son?" he asked, rolling the window all the way down. "I saw everything. The blonde boy with the blue backpack, right? He was crying really hard when the car came. He waved the driver away and walked off in the rain." Richard closed his eyes for a moment. The description matched perfectly. Tyler was wearing the blue backpack his mother had given him for his last birthday before she passed away. "Where did he go?" His voice cracked. "Come with me, mister, I know where he is." The girl started walking along the slippery sidewalk, and Richard had to quickly park to follow her. With every step, he felt the weight of the argument they'd had hours earlier. He had announced he was selling the house they lived in, the same one where Tyler had grown up with his mother. The boy had exploded, screaming that his father didn't respect Grace's memory. "There, look," the little guide pointed. "He went into that store." It was a well-known pawn shop in the Williamsburg neighborhood. Richard pushed the door open, making the bell jingle. Behind the counter, an older man with thick glasses looked up from an old newspaper. "Mr. Stanley, did you see a blonde boy here a little while ago?" "Oh yes. Polite kid, but he was really upset. Asked how much I'd give him for some old jewelry. I showed him the rates, but he changed his mind right away and ran out." Old jewelry? Richard sighed. He knew exactly what that meant. Tyler had taken his mother's jewelry, the only valuable pieces left of her. Did he say anything? Just mumbled something about proving he wasn't greedy. Poor kid, he was crying like a little boy. Richard left the shop with a heavy heart. The girl was waiting for him, leaning against a lamppost, as if she knew he'd come back. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now back to the story. "He went to the abandoned mansion," the girl said before Richard could even ask. "What mansion?" "Down the back street. It's where people without homes go when it rains hard." Richard knew the place. An old townhouse the city still hadn't torn down, where homeless people took shelter. He never imagined Tyler knew about it. When they got there, they only found the blue backpack tossed in a corner of the main room. A few people were warming themselves by an improvised fire in the backyard. "Excuse me, have you seen a blonde boy here?" An elderly woman, wrapped in a tattered blanket, approached. Around her neck, a golden necklace gleamed against the grime. Oh, the kind boy. What an angel that young man was. He came in here soaked, carrying a little bag full of shiny jewelry. Richard's eyes widened. What did he do? "He gave it all away to us, sir. Said things only have value when they help real people. Gave me this necklace, see? Said it belonged to his mother, who's in heaven now." The woman's voice trembled with emotion. Richard recognized the necklace immediately. It was Grace's favorite, the one she wore for every special occasion. Did he say anything else? He said he didn't want his father to think he was selfish, that he wanted to prove he didn't care about money, only about what really matters. Richard leaned against the wall, feeling his legs go weak. For months he had criticized Tyler for being too much of a dreamer, for not understanding the value of things. Now he was discovering that his son understood better than he did. "Where did he go after that?" asked the little girl, who had been quiet until then. "He went to Washington Square, said he had to feed a little friend." Richard looked at the girl beside him, confused. "Little friend?" The child lowered her eyes, nervously shifting her bare feet. "He was talking about me, Uncle." "What do you mean?" "For 3 months he's been giving me food every day after school, always at the square. He said today would be the last time because he was going far away." Richard felt a tightness in his chest. 3 months. Exactly since he had started working late, coming home when Tyler was already asleep. They ran to Washington Square but found only the wet bench where Tyler usually sat. A peanut vendor confirmed he had seen the boy there but said he had headed toward Little Italy. "Why would he go to Little Italy?" murmured Richard. "Because that's where Jason lives, his best friend," the girl replied. Another thing Richard didn't know. He felt as if he was discovering a completely different son with each revelation. At Jason's modest apartment, the boy's mother greeted them with concern in her eyes. "Ms. Karen, is Tyler here?" "No, Mr. Richard, but he stopped by an hour ago, very upset. He left this for you." She held out a crumpled envelope. With trembling hands, Richard opened it and found a handwritten letter. "Dad, by the time you read this, I'll already be far away. It's not running away. I just need time to understand why we're so different. You want to sell our house, and I get your reasons. I know it must be hard living with memories of Mom in every corner. But for me, that house is all I have left of her. It's where I feel she's still with us. Maybe I really am too much of a dreamer, like you say. I'll stay at Aunt Patricia's place in New Haven for a few days. Don't worry, Tyler." Richard folded the letter, feeling hot tears mix with the rain still dripping from his hair. "Mr. Richard," Ms. Karen called. "Can I say something? Tyler comes here all the time to talk with Jason. He talks about you a lot, you know. Only good things. Says you're the hardest working man he knows, that he admires your strength." "Then why do we fight so much? Because you feel the same pain, but each of you deals with it differently. You work to forget. He wants to stay close to the memories. Neither of you is wrong." The girl tugged at Richard's coat sleeve. "Uncle, Aunt Patricia in New Haven doesn't exist." "How do you know?" "Because I know all his stories. He doesn't have any aunt in New Haven. He just wrote that so you wouldn't worry." Richard felt a chill in his stomach. If Tyler hadn't gone to New Haven, where was he? And why did this girl know so many details about his son's life? Jason appeared in the living room, his hair still wet from the shower. "Mr. Richard, I'm glad you came. I'm worried about Tyler." "Where is he, Jason?" "I'm not sure, but he told me something strange. Said he found a place where he felt close to Ms. Grace, a place she used to go when she was young." Richard searched his memory. Grace rarely spoke about her youth. She had grown up poor, in a family struggling to survive. She had worked from an early age to help her parents. She mentioned an orphanage where she volunteered, he suddenly remembered. Good Shepherd Children's Home on the east side. "That's where he must be," the girl exclaimed. They took the first taxi they found. During the journey, Richard kept glancing at the child beside him, intrigued by her precocious wisdom. "How do you know so much about my son?" "We talk a lot at the square. He tells me about his mother, how kind she was. And I tell him about my mom, who also went to heaven." "Don't you have any family?" "I have Miss Martha, who takes care of me, but she's been in the hospital for a week. That's why I'm on the streets." Richard felt a pang in his heart. That little girl was all alone, yet she still cared about helping others. The Good Shepherd Children's Home was an old but well-kept building. The doorman confirmed that a blonde young man had arrived an hour earlier, claiming to be Grace Wilson's son. "Ms. Grace?" The man's eyes lit up. "I miss her so much. She helped here for years when she was young. A saint, that woman." They found Tyler sitting in a chair in the inner courtyard, talking to orphaned children. Even though he was wet and sad, he had a smile on his face as he told stories. "Tyler!" Richard rushed to his son. The young man looked up, surprised. "Dad, how did you find me?" "I had some very special help," he said, glancing at the little girl. Tyler noticed her presence. "Emily? What are you doing here?" "Helping your dad find you, mister." Richard froze. "Emily, you two really know each other." "Dad, Emily is..." Tyler hesitated. "She's my best friend, the person who understands me most in the whole world." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. His son's words hit Richard like a punch. His 16-year-old considered an 8-year-old girl his best friend. That said a lot about the loneliness Tyler felt. "Let's go home and talk," Richard asked. "Dad, I don't want to go back to that house if you're going to sell it. I'd rather stay here helping the kids like Mom used to. Tyler, about selling the house, what, maybe I was too hasty. No, Dad. I get it. The house brings you painful memories. I'm the one being immature. Emily stepped between them. You're both wrong. Father and son looked at the little girl in surprise. Uncle Richard doesn't want to sell the house because he dislikes the memories. He wants to sell because he loves them too much, and they hurt. And Mr. Tyler doesn't want to leave because he wants to forget the pain. He wants to stay because the memories make him feel less alone. The simplicity of her observation left them speechless. An 8-year-old had unraveled what they couldn't understand on their own. Emily, Richard said, kneeling to her height, would you like to come over for dinner tonight? I think the three of us have a lot to talk about. The little girl smiled for the first time that night. Really? Yes. And tomorrow, we'll visit Miss Martha in the hospital. During dinner, at a table that hadn't brought Richard and Tyler together in months, the barriers began to fall. Emily told funny stories that drew genuine laughter from both men. Tyler spoke about his dreams of working with underprivileged kids, inspired by the stories his mother had shared about her time at the orphanage. Dad, can I tell you something? Of course, son. I didn't want you to sell the house because that's where I still smell Mom. That's where I hear her voice calling me for dinner. That's where I feel her tucking me in at night. Richard swallowed hard. And I wanted to sell because every corner of that house reminds me she's not here anymore, that I failed to make her happy in her last months. You didn't fail, Dad. Mom was happy. She always said she had the two most important men in her life. Emily, who had been eating quietly, looked up. Can I say something? Go ahead, sweetheart. My mom also went to heaven when I was really little. And you know what the lady at the orphanage taught me? That when we love someone who has passed away very much, we shouldn't hold on to just the pain. We should hold on to the love too. What do you mean? Asked Tyler. Your house is full of Ms. Grace's love, but you're only seeing the pain. If you sold the house, you'd take the pain with you. But if you stayed and turned the pain into something good, you'd discover the love stayed too. Richard looked at Emily with admiration. How could a child be so wise? What do you suggest we do? Turn the house into a place that helps others. That way Ms. Grace will be happy up in heaven, seeing her house become a place of hope. Tyler perked up. Dad, Mom always dreamed of having a community library. Remember how she used to lend books to the neighbors? Richard smiled, remembering Grace organizing stacks of books on the living room table. She said knowledge shouldn't be locked away inside a house. We could turn the living room into a library. Tyler was excited. And the kitchen. Mom loved cooking for everyone. We could make community meals for families in need. And Mom's sewing room, Richard continued, catching the spirit. She always wanted to teach other women to sew. We could hold workshops. Emily clapped her hands. See, Ms. Grace's house can become full of life again. That night, Richard settled Emily into the guest room. For the first time in months, the house didn't feel empty. There were voices, laughter, life moving through the halls. The next morning, they went to visit Martha in the hospital. The 60-year-old woman had been admitted with pneumonia, but was already improving. When she saw Emily, her eyes filled with tears. My dear, I was so worried about you. Ms. Martha, these are my friends Richard and Tyler. They took care of me. Richard spoke privately with Martha. He learned she was a widow, retired with a small pension, and had been caring for Emily informally since the girl's mother passed away 2 years earlier. Ms. Martha, would you like to live in a bigger house, with a yard and a library? Sir, I can't afford expensive rent. It wouldn't be rent. It would be a partnership. We're turning our house into a community center. We need someone experienced to help manage it. Martha's eyes lit up. Are you serious? I've never been more serious in my life. Over the following weeks, the Wilson family home transformed completely. Richard reduced his workload to dedicate himself to the project. Tyler canceled vacation travel plans to help organize. The library took shape in the old living room. Richard donated all of Grace's books and bought hundreds more. Tyler created a simple checkout system and set up reading nooks for different ages. The kitchen became the heart of the project. Twice a week, they prepared meals for 30 needy families in the neighborhood. Martha took charge, bringing simple, nutritious recipes she'd learned over a lifetime. Grace's sewing room became a workshop. Richard hired a retired teacher to teach women sewing, knitting, and embroidery. The items they made were sold in a small cooperative shop set up in the garage. Emily became the project's mascot. Her contagious joy and precocious wisdom won over everyone who came. She helped in the children's library, telling stories with impressive naturalness. 3 months after the rainy night that changed everything, Richard and Tyler were organizing books when Emily came running in. "Uncle Richard, Mr. Tyler, there's a surprise outside." In the backyard, they found a surprise party. All the families helped by the community center were there, with a huge cake that read, "Thank you, Wilson family." "You didn't have to," said Richard, moved. "Of course we did," replied Ms. Karen, Jason's mother. "You gave hope back to our community." The celebration lasted until nightfall. Richard watched Tyler playing with the children, Emily helping the ladies serve desserts, and Martha coordinating everything with maternal efficiency. "Grace would be proud," he whispered to himself. "She is proud," Emily corrected, appearing beside him. "I can feel it." "How can you be so sure?" "Because before this house wept. Now it laughs." Richard hugged the girl, feeling a peace he hadn't known in years. Tyler joined them, and the three stood there, watching the house that had almost been sold, now sheltering dozens of happy people. "Dad," Tyler said, "can I tell you a secret?" "Of course." "That rainy night when I left, I wasn't just angry about the sale. I was scared." "Scared of what?" "Scared that if we lost the house, I'd lose you too. Like the house was the only thing still holding us together." Tears welled in Richard's eyes. "Son, you could never lose me. I was the one who was lost and didn't realize it." "What do you mean?" "I shut myself away in grief after losing your mum and forgot I still had you, that we still had each other." Emily looked at them both. "Have you found your way back now?" "We have," they answered in unison, smiling. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It means so much to us as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 6 months later, the Grace Wilson Community Center had become a neighborhood cornerstone. The library served 200 families, the community kitchen provided 500 meals weekly, and the sewing workshop had expanded to include basic carpentry and electronics. Richard discovered a calling he never knew he had, gradually stepping back from business to dedicate himself fully to the center. Inspired by the project's impact, Tyler decided to study education with a focus on community learning. Emily officially became Richard and Tyler's adoptive daughter, a swift process given Martha's enthusiastic support and how she was already family in all but name. "Dad," Tyler said one afternoon as they sorted donations in the garage, "do you regret not selling the house?" Richard paused and looked around. Children reading in the library, women sewing in the workshop, families sharing meals in the kitchen, laughter, conversation, life. "Son, if I'd sold this house, I'd have lost far more than a property. I'd have lost the chance to truly honor your mother's memory." "How so?" "Grace always said happiness is only complete when shared. This house breathes that now. It's like she's here, smiling at every person we help." Emily came running in, as she always did, with news. "Papa Richard, Papa Tyler, an important letter came." Richard grinned at the Papa she insisted on calling them both. He opened the envelope and his eyes widened. "What is it?" Tyler asked. "A proposal from the city. They want to use our model to create 10 similar community centers across town. And they want us to lead the project." "Seriously?" Tyler jumped with joy. "But it'd mean a lot of work, a lot of responsibility. Our simple life would change." Emily tugged Richard's sleeve. "Papa, how many kids like me are there in the city?" "Many, sweetheart. So many." "Then we have to say yes." Ms. Grace wanted to help everyone, not just our neighborhood. Richard looked at Tyler, who nodded eagerly. "Emily's right. Mom dreamed big." "All right, we'll accept, but on one condition." "What?" they asked. "Emily will be our official consultant. After all, she had the original idea." The girl laughed, hugging the two men who had become her family. I accept, but only if we can have a special corner in each center to tell stories. Why? Because it was through stories that I learned every pain can turn into hope, and every empty house can become a home full of love. Richard picked up a framed photo of Grace that hung in the entryway. 3 smiles reflected in the glass alongside her face. Grace, he whispered, our family has grown, and our love has multiplied. That night, as Emily slept between Richard and Tyler, she still had nightmares sometimes. Richard thought about how a discussion about selling a house had turned into the discovery of a new way of living. Tyler had grown up, taking on responsibilities and showing a maturity that made him proud. Emily had brought light to the dark corners of their souls, and he himself had learned that working for money would never fulfill him as much as working for people. The house that was almost sold on a rainy night of misunderstandings now held the greatest wealth possible, a family united by love and the purpose of doing good. Mom, Tyler murmured in the dark, thank you for teaching us that love multiplies when it's shared. Ms. Grace, whispered Emily, half asleep, thank you for leaving such a warm home for us to live in. Richard smiled, finally understanding that honoring the memory of those we love doesn't mean preserving the past untouched, but transforming the love we received into more love to offer the world. The rain tapped against the window again, but this time it carried only the sound of renewal, not pain. In every drop sliding down the glass, Richard saw a new possibility, a new life being transformed, a new family being formed. The man who had once rushed out desperately into the storm searching for his son had found far more than that. He had found a purpose, a new family, and a way to keep Grace's love alive and growing. Emily stirred in her sleep and murmured, Daddy, can we plant flowers in the yard tomorrow? To make Ms. Grace's house even prettier. Of course, sweetheart, they answered together in a whisper, because they finally understood that a house becomes a home not by the things it holds, but by the people who find warmth, purpose, and the chance to be their best selves within it. The dirty girl who appeared on a rainy night had been the angel in disguise who saved a family from being lost in their own pain. And now together, they were saving other families, continuing a cycle of love that Grace could never have imagined when she planted the first seeds of kindness in their hearts. The storm had passed. What remained was only the scent of wet earth and the promise of sunny days ahead, where every challenge would be faced together as a true family. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave your honest thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Richard made the right decision by turning the house into a community center? We'd love to hear your opinions. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and most importantly subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories.